Good evening. This is the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and tonight we focus on the just concluded India-Australia Test series that India sadly lost 2-0. But that's not all that happened in the series. A lot of controversies were generated and new stars were found as well. We'll be talking about all this and more over the next half hour. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds out a string of election promises for Delhi as he addresses a mega rally in the capital. The opposition fumes, claims a pack of lies. Actor Sanjay Dutt back in Pune's Yerawada jail after a plea for extension of furlough is turned down. The Maharashtra government defends charges of VIP treatment for the star. Hunt on for the fourth missing suspect after a bloody final siege as the French government warns of further terror threats. High terror alert issued across France. And still no sign of the black box flight recorders of the ill-fated AirAsia flight even after the tailpiece is lifted out of the waters. Bad weather delays search operations. And in sports, India still manages to hold on to take the fourth and final test to a draw. Australia, though, win the series 2-0. A top story tonight, Prime Minister Narendra Modi sounded the BJP's poll bugle in Delhi today, holding out a host of promises ahead of the assembly elections as he addressed a mega rally in the capital. And beyond reaching out to the Delhiite, the event was also a show of strength for the BJP.
It's focused Delhi now after the sweeps in Jharkhand and Haryana and an impact in Maharashtra and Jammu and Kashmir, and hopes of power here after 16 years. This political rally in the capital stressed once again that the Prime Minister will be the BJP's biggest mascot once again. The event at the iconic Ramlila Maidan was designed to be a mega kickstart to the party's election campaign in Delhi. A show of strength with the BJP's chief ministers in Haryana, Jharkhand and Maharashtra in attendance. And as expected, the slew of poll promises.
Delhi ko generator se mukti dila denge aur Delhi ko generator se mukti milegi तो ये जहरीली हवा से भी मुक्ति मिलेगी। इतना ही नहीं, 24 घंटे बिजली देने का मेरा वादा है भाइयों बहनों, 24 घंटे बिजली।
There was also the training of guns at the Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal in the promise of an end to policy paralysis and action over rhetoric and what Modi termed anarchism.
दिल्ली में स्थिर सरकार चुनिए, पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकार चुनिए। आप मुझे बताइए, दिल्ली का 1 साल बर्बाद हुआ कि नहीं हुआ? आपने कभी ऐसे राजनेता देखे हैं जो खुद कहें कि हाँ मैं एनार्किस्ट हूं? अगर आपको एनार्की करनी है, एनार्किस्ट हो तो जाकर के जंगलों में नक्सलवाद वालों के साथ जुड़ जाओ, वही तो वो कर रहे हैं।
As in election campaigns in Jharkhand and Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana and Maharashtra before that, once again a recounting of new flagship schemes like the Jan Dhan Yojana and of taking India to the world. The development card that yielded the BJP big dividends through last year is out again.
हम एक ऐसी नई राजनीति को लेकर के आए हैं जो जातिवाद से परे है, जो संप्रदायवाद से परे हैं, जो प्रांतवाद से परे हैं, जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ विकासवाद को लेकर के चल पड़ी है और गरीब के विकास के लिए असंकल्पबद्ध होकर के चली है।
The Delhi Assembly election momentum is underway, officially and on the streets, even before the formal announcement of the polling dates. Welcome to poll season in the capital again. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And as expected, the political reaction to Modi's election campaign kickoff speech was almost immediate. On top of the list of rebutters was Aam Aadmi Party chief and former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Kejriwal slammed Narendra Modi's jibe, calling him an anarchist, calling it an unpardonable personal attack. He raised questions on Modi not mentioning his government work during the 49 days, calling it a sign of the BJP's nervousness ahead of the elections in Delhi. Kejriwal also called the BJP government a U-turn sarkar, accusing the party of going back on promises it made before coming to power at the centre.
के पास मुद्दे क्या हैं? मैं ये जानना चाहता हूं कि बिजली के बिल कैसे कम करेंगे? केजरीवाल एनार्किस्ट है। इससे दिल्ली की बिजली का बिल सॉल्व हो गया। इससे रिश्वतखोरी बंद हो गई। मैं जो भी हूं, मैंने 49 दिन में काम करके दिखाया था। मैंने रिश्वतखोरी बंद कर दी दिल्ली के अंदर। हमारी सरकार ने बिजली के बिल आधे कर दिए थे। हमने पानी मुफ्त कर दिया था। सीएनजी का रेट 50 रुपए से 35 रुपए कर दिया था। हमने कितने काम करे थे सर 49 दिन में। इनसे 7 महीने में एक काम भी नहीं हुआ जो जनता के सीधे बेनिफिट का हो।
And a lot of other players in the Delhi election scene had also lots to add, so let's listen in.
नरेंद्र मोदी जी और उनकी सरकार इस देश के गरीबों के लिए काम नहीं कर रही। इनकी सरकार बड़े पूंजीपतियों के लिए काम कर रही है। हमेशा उनकी प्राथमिकता ये रहती है कि किसको लोन सैंक्शन कराया जाए, किस बड़े व्यक्ति को कर्जा दिलाया जाए, दूसरे देश के बैंकों से कर्जा दिलाया जाए।
प्राइम मिनिस्टर मस्ट रिफ्रेन फ्रॉम यूजिंग द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट मिशनरी फंड्स और other resources for the purposes of collecting huge crowd here, which we are finding. And I think the Delhi elections must be contested fairly by all political parties without misuse of power or authority.
प्रधानमंत्री ने एक सवाल पूछा, क्या ऐसे किसी नेता का नाम सुना है जिसने कहा हो कि मैं अराजकता में विश्वास करता हूं? मैं बड़े अदब से प्रधानमंत्री को बताना चाहता हूं, मैंने उसका नाम सुना है। संयोग से वो गुजरात से थे। उनका नाम था मोहनदास करमचंद गांधी। उन्होंने एक बार नहीं, एक से ज्यादा बार कहा कि सिद्धांत के रूप में वो अराजकता में विश्वास करते हैं। अराजकतावाद एक दार्शनिक विचारधारा है। प्रधानमंत्री को शायद समझ नहीं आ रहा होगा, इसलिए उत्तर उन्हें मिलना चाहिए था।
Moving on now, actor Sanjay Dutt is back in jail after jail authorities in Pune reportedly turned down a plea for him to extend furlough. With politics breaking out over allegations of VIP treatment and frequent leave granted to the actor, who is a convict in the 1993 Mumbai blast case, the actor though is blaming the media as well for unnecessarily targeting him.
From his posh house in Mumbai, back to life behind bars. It was parting goodbyes again for Sanjay Dutt as he returned to the Yerwada Central Jail in Pune after a 14-day furlough that he got to spend the New Year's at home, and an extension plea was turned down after several days of delay.
I am abiding by the laws of the jail authority, jail manual. मुझे आज ऑर्डर मिला है सरेंडर का, तो मैं जा रहा हूँ सरेंडर करने। मेरे लिए कोई फेवर नहीं हुआ है। मैं मीडिया से इतना रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ सिर्फ कि ये आप लोग सपोर्ट कीजिए जो फरलो मिलता है या पेरोल मिलता है, और मैं इतनी उम्मीद करता हूं कि मेरी वजह से अगर दूसरे गरीबों का कुछ फायदा हो तो मैं बहुत खुश हूं।
But not all by the no special treatment plea. Since he was convicted in the 1993 Mumbai blast case in March 2013, Dutt has been frequently out on seemingly flimsy grounds. His wife's illness, to take care of the kids, and his own bad health. Legal eagles want questions around political intervention answered.
What is surprising that Sanjay Dutt's lawyers have come on channels and said that they got assurance from the State Home Minister of Maharashtra, Mr. Ram Shinde. This is a clear contempt of court of the orders of the Supreme Court, which had ordered rigorous imprisonment for Sanjay Dutt. The prison rules 1959 clearly say furlough can only be extended by DIG prisons, and when there was no written order of extension, Sanjay Dutt should have been behind bars.
As a political slugfest breaks out on the issue, the Maharashtra government puts up a defence, rejecting the idea of favours being granted.
पहली बात तो यह है कि राज्य सरकार की भूमिका बहुत स्पष्ट है, और मैंने कल भी यह स्पष्ट की है कि हम नियमों के अनुसार जाएंगे और किसी भी नियम का उल्लंघन नहीं होगा, और उसी प्रकार से सारी कार्रवाई यहाँ पर हुई है। राज्य सरकार कोई सेलिब्रिटी है, इसलिए उसको मदद भी नहीं करेगी और कोई सेलिब्रिटी है इसलिए उसको विक्टिमाइज भी नहीं करेगी। हमारे लिए सारे कैदी समान हैं।
Dutt is to serve out his remaining 42-month prison term in connection with the illegal possession of arms in the 1993 Mumbai blast case. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Now let's look at all the other national news we are tracking in nationwide. The next round of spectrum auction for the 2G and 3G networks will start from the 25th of February, through which the government targets to garner at least 64,840 crore rupees. A notification has been issued by the Department of Telecom. The auction will be held for frequencies in 4 bands of 800 MHz, 900 MHz, 1800 MHz and 2100 MHz. The last date of submission of applications is the 6th of February. The 4-day International Kite Festival kicked off in Ahmedabad today. The annual festival attracts enthusiastic kite makers and flyers from across the globe. Kites in various shapes and colors took over the sky as kite flyers competed with each other. The festival will end on the 13th of January. The 7th edition of the Vibrant Gujarat Summit will start at the Mahatma Mandir in Gandhinagar tomorrow. The summit will be inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. US Secretary of State John Kerry will also attend the summit, during which he will address investors to boost economic ties between the United States and India. He is also scheduled to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi to discuss a broad range of bilateral and global issues, including climate change. Well, we'll step into a very short break here, but on the other side, Boko Haram continues the brutal carnage in Baga town of northeast Nigeria. There are reports of over 2,000 people killed. More on that after the break. Welcome back. This is the news tonight. Well, some international news now, and after terminating 3 suspects of the Paris shootouts, French police forces are now frantically searching for the 4th suspect who is still on the run. French President François Hollande appreciated the security services on a successful combing operation, but also warned of further terror threats.
France finally relieved after 3 days of shootouts and dramatic hostage takings. All 3 suspects have been killed in police raids. One wanted in the fatal shootings of a policewoman and 4 hostages, the other 2 in the massacre at the offices of Charlie Hebdo magazine. But France is also grieving as 4 hostages in Kosher Market lost their lives during combing operations.
D'abord, j'exprime toute ma solidarité aux familles, aux victimes, aux blessés. Mais la France, elle a fait face parce que quand elle surmonte une épreuve, c'est une tragédie pour la nation.
Following a security cabinet meeting on Saturday, French Interior Minister said that France would remain on its highest state of alert for the next few weeks. Tight security is in place.
Nous sommes conscients de l'ampleur de ce défi, que nous avons pris depuis de nombreux mois des mesures à travers une loi antiterroriste, en réorganisant la Direction générale de la sécurité intérieure, en donnant des moyens à nos forces, en étant dans l'anticipation, dans la relation avec nos partenaires de l'Union européenne.
The French government continues to face the threat of terrorism and has to remain vigilant. The situation is fluid. President Hollande's made it clear that they're going to do whatever is necessary to protect their people.
The operation not completely over just yet. One more suspect, Hayat Boumediene, is still on the run, and many unanswered questions remain on the suspects and their affiliations. An audio record from one of the suspects in Charlie Hebdo attacks, Sharif Kouachi, suggests he received financing by an Al-Qaeda preacher based in Yemen. Condolences are pouring in from across the world for all 17 killed in Paris over the last 3 days. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon visited the French mission to the UN on Friday and signed a condolence book to express his sincere sympathy on the deadly attacks in France. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And reports from Nigeria say there's still no let-up in terror attacks by Boko Haram in the northeastern town of Baga, where more than 2,000 people have been brutally massacred over the last 48 hours. Hundreds of bodies remain strewn around the town. Human rights organization Amnesty International has termed it the deadliest massacre in the history of the Boko Haram. The Nigerian government said the military has been deployed and is conducting airstrikes against the militants. Around 30,000 people have been displaced due to Boko Haram's attacks, with thousands fleeing into the neighboring country, that's Chad. Now, Boko Haram has terrorized northern Nigeria since 2009, attacking police, schools, churches and civilians and bombing government buildings. It has also kidnapped students, including more than 200 schoolgirls who were abducted in April and still are missing. Now, search teams have still not located the black box flight recorders of the AirAsia plane QZ8501, even after lifting the tail wing from the Java Sea today. Officials say sonar pings have been located in the surrounding area, indicating the recorders may have fallen out of the aircraft. Finding them now is almost a race against time.
Cheers and applause as the search team finally lifts the tail section of AirAsia flight QZ8501 from the Java Sea, 2 days after it was located. It took 2 hours for the team to lift the tail section from a depth of about 30 meters using inflatable bags. The wreckage will now be shifted to a base at Borneo, where the multinational search operation is based for further examination. But there is little good news on finding what they were actually looking for. The tailpiece is in a bad shape and the black boxes have been separated from it. The focus now shifts to sonar pings detected, hoping they come from the flight recorders. It's a race against time before their batteries fade.
Masalah black box, tapi di kabin pesawat tidak ditemukan. Kemungkinan besar bahwa black box ini terlepas atau terlempar.
48 dead bodies out of the 162 on board the ill-fated plane have been pulled out so far. Autopsy reports so far show no burn marks, indicating that there was no fire or explosion. On-site experts say the rest are likely to be in the fuselage, with strong winds and high waves continuing to hamper search efforts. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And new Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena began assembling a cabinet on Saturday on his first day in office as he looks to deliver on the pledges to repair the nation's diplomatic standing and implement democratic reforms. Sirisena, who was sworn in on Friday evening after a shock election victory over veteran strongman Mahinda Rajapaksa, is trying to form a national unity cabinet that would include members from a cross-section of political parties in parliament. Sirisena had offered a 100-day program to carry out urgent political and economic reforms, including moves to cut back on the powers of the president that Rajapaksa gave himself during a decade in office. Sirisena promised to rebalance the country's foreign policy, which is heavily tilted towards China in recent years.
අපිට බාර දී දෙනවා. ඒ වගකීම ඉතාමත් විශිෂ්ට ලෙස ඉටු කරන බව මේ අවස්ථාවේ මා ගෞරවයෙන් සියලු දෙනාට ධර්මා සිටිනවා. මම මේ තරතුරට රටේ පොදු මහ ජනතාවගේ ඡන්දයෙන් පත් වුණා වගේම මම මේ අවස්ථාව කරගන්නවා. මම දෙවන වතාවට නැත්නම් නැවත වතාවක් ජනාධිපති වර්ණයක් සඳහා
More international news and updates in Global Buzz. Pakistan police today shot dead Wagah blast mastermind Ruullah alias Asadullah in an encounter today. Asadullah, who is believed to head the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, was killed along with 2 accomplices in the provincial capital's Burki Road area. Pak intelligence agencies had been hunting for Asadullah since the 2nd of November attack last year that killed 61 people. A Saudi Arabian blogger has been publicly flogged after being convicted of cyber crimes and insulting Islam. Raif Badawi, who was sentenced to 1,000 lashes and 10 years in jail, was flogged 50 times. The flogging will be carried out weekly. Badawi, the co-founder of a now-banned website called the Liberal Saudi Network, was arrested in 2012. The FBI and Justice Department prosecutors have recommended bringing criminal charges against former CIA chief David Petraeus. He's been accused of improperly providing classified information to a female Army Reserve officer with whom he was having an affair. The probe focuses on whether Petraeus gave his biographer, Paula Broadwell, access to his CIA email account and other highly classified information. Radical Muslim cleric Abu Hamza al-Masri has been sentenced to life in prison by a court in New York for supporting terrorism. He was convicted in May of multiple charges, including hostage-taking and plotting to set up a terrorism training camp in the United States. His trial followed a lengthy extradition process from the United Kingdom. Well, we'll take another quick break, but on the other side, Leh has hit minus 16 degrees across North India. It's been the coldest day in the last 10 years. Welcome back here with the news tonight. Now, cold wave conditions continue unabated in most of North India. In fact, foggy conditions disrupted air and rail services with as many as 59 trains running behind schedule. In Punjab and Haryana, cold conditions intensified with day temperatures dropping several degrees below normal. Now, mercury levels dipped in Uttar Pradesh as well, with Najibabad recording a low of 3.2 degrees Celsius. Not just the north, the western region was also in the grip of the cold wave. Vidarbha and Nagpur saw a sharp fall in temperatures, the minimum settling at 5.3 degrees Celsius in Nagpur. The Met Office says today was the coldest day in the month of January in the last 10 years. Up north, Leh was the coldest today with a minimum temperature of 16.2 degrees Celsius, and that's a minus 16.2 degrees.
सब कुछ जमा हुआ है, ये जो डल झील हमारा है वो भी अब बर्फ से जम गया है, इसलिए मैं कहता हूं कि अल्लाह ताला से हम लोग कश्मीरी लोग कुछ गुजारिश करेंगे कि इल्तिजा करेंगे कि कुछ बर्फ गिरना चाहिए, हम लोगों का थोड़ा सर्दी में रहना मुश्किल हो जाएगा। इस वक्त मतलब मौसम का मतलब ये खुशकसाली हो गई, तो इससे ज्यादा बीमारी हो गई, मतलब बूढ़े हैं, बच्चे हैं, उसके खांसी है लग रही है इस वक्त, मतलब बहुत मुश्किल से मतलब इस वक्त ये सर्दी बर्दाश्त कर सकते हैं, कांगड़ी मतलब लगाते हैं अंदर, मतलब बुखारी जलाते हैं, सब कुछ है, मगर मौसम का अभी कोई उम्मीद नहीं है, मतलब बारिश आने का इनकाम है, वो तो पता ही नहीं आएगा नहीं आएगा इस साल।
Well, sports now. And India today survived a last session collapse against Australia to draw the final test in Sydney. With the draw, the Australians secured the series 2-0, but India also had a lot to learn from this series.
The stage was set for a pulsating fifth day of cricket, with Australia declaring their second innings on the overnight score of 251 for 6. India had a tough task for saving the test, as the target of 349 runs on the tricky pitch seemed unrealistic to achieve.
Is that the first wicket? Yes, it is. Turn and bounce.
The top order batsmen got good starts, but failed to convert it into big scores.
Slides it now. Smith follows the drop of March with a beauty it slipped.
It seemed that match was heading for draw, but Indian batsmen gave the host a sniff of victory by losing 4 wickets for just 16 runs. However, Ajinkya Rahane and tail ender Bhuvaneshwar Kumar played out tense last hour to save the game for India.
Down the ground for 6.
We pulled them till the end on 3 occasions in this series, and 2 were draws and 1 was a loss, which could have gone either way. I was only sitting there thinking about if the series was 1-1 and how much more pleasing those last moments would have felt. But really proud of the way the guys have played in the series.
The new captain has been the most successful Indian batsman of the tour. Kohli's counterpart Steven Smith also had phenomenal series and was named man of the match as well as man of the series for his 769 runs in the 4 matches.
The boys, the way they've held themselves throughout the series has been terrific, and we sat out at the start of the series to win this series, and we did that 2-0, and we're extremely satisfied with our results.
He's out there very humid.
This draw means Australia retains the Border Gavaskar Trophy with a 2-0 margin victories in first 2 tests in Adelaide and Brisbane, and suffer a drop in test rankings. India will next feature in the ODI Try series, including England and Australia. The series starts from 16th of January. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
An eminent sports journalist and sports editor at DNA, Shekhar Luthra, joins us to help us understand, Shekhar, what can India take away from the series? We've lost 2-0, but we also had a lot of controversies through the series as well.
But I think they should be very proud of the way that our batsmen have played. Because I still remember the best team I still believe was 2007-8 when we visited there and there was Kumble's, Ganguly's, Tendulkar's and VVS Lakshman's there along with Sehwag and Gambhir. Even then we lost 2-1. That was one series I believe that we should have won apart from that Monkey Gate controversy. But overall I think this was a new side. Again, we were not up against one of the most formidable side. They were also very young and again struggling with so many youngsters coming in. But again, I think apart from our bowling, which has absolutely in a mess, I would say. I don't know what these selectors are doing, why these selectors have been retained. They should be fired immediately. But overall, I think our batting we should be proud of, the way we battled it out. And even 2-0 is not a bad score, I would say, as Virat was saying. Right. It could have been 1-1 and we could have gone for a, again win in the last match. But I think this was a very good batting display by this young team, and we have lot of youngsters that have come after this series, be it Ajinkya Rahane or Virat Kohli or Murli Vijay, who has been left out. One more reason for these selectors to be sacked.
All right, so you certainly feel that the selectors aren't doing their job. But Shekhar, I mean, the World Cup team has already been announced, and I mean, of course, there's a one-day series left after this test series, but after this, the Indian team heads into the World Cup. So, I mean, what kind of a mindset are they carrying? What kind of a confidence level would they be carrying into that tournament?
I think this was a very well-planned series because for the first time in so many years that Indian cricket board has actually planned it so well that we are there in Australia for almost two months before the World Cup, playing 4 test matches and then subsequently the tri-series, and that too tri-series against Australia and very formidable English side. So I think we should be able to adapt to these conditions in a much better way than rest of the teams. But again, my only concern is about our fielding and about our bowling. Because again, we are going with the same kind of bowlers, all these Ishant Sharma and Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who was half fit when we were playing the last match. Right. Why he was played, again why he was chosen, this is something the team management has to answer to, because this is injustice to this young person who has been very, very impressive in last 1.5 years. Right. But overall, I think we should be very well prepared, and looking at tri-series first of all, I think what we should try and do is to have our number 6 and number 3 player in place, because we have wasted a lot of time in test matches, especially with Suresh Raina and Rohit Sharma. But I think this is the time when in the one-day series we should have a completely different mindset, different time, team also, which should be carried in the future also with all this Suresh Raina, a part of one days and never been a part of the test series, because they have completely let us down in the bigger format of the game.
All right, but talking about the big change that happened in the Indian side, very quickly about Virat Kohli. I mean, he was in fine form as a batsman, but how would you rate him as a captain in his first, his first test officially as captain?
Well, I think this was the best change that we actually could have got in the new year, because his approach is different, his mindset is different, and for the first time in almost 30 years, ever since I have been following this cricket so closely, that there is a captain who is actually going for a victory even when they are chasing a score of 350 plus. So that's been a big change in the mindset. We all understand that he's young, 25, very aggressive. I want this aggression to be little bit less, but overall I think I like his approach. I like his batting style, because he has been leading from the front, 4 test centuries in the test series. So in a way I think Dhoni should be again relieved from the one-days, because one-day captaincy also, because I still believe that Virat Kohli needs to be in command in all formats of the game, and hopefully very soon after the World Cup we'll see him in charge.
All right, and let's hope the one-day series goes off better than the test series went. But Shekhar, thanks very much for coming in and sharing perspective on India's performance in Australia down under. All right, on that note, we'll call it a wrap on this bulletin. That's News Tonight. Good night.